Hi class, this is Mashana. I'm going to talk to you about social justice today and a counselor's role in being an advocate for populations that are marginalized and devalued by society. So advocacy is a crucial role that counselors are expected to play out in their professional lives. And because counselors are expected to do the most good, they have an obligation to be aware of social injustices and seek opportunities to advocate for those particular populations who are being denied their basic equal rights. And part of that is being socially aware and noticing barriers that prevent access to equality. But in order to be a social justice oriented counselor, a counselor has to conceptualize their own golden rule. And for myself, I feel like my golden rule would be to do the most amount of good with the skills and training that I have, or that I will have, and to do it with compassion and empathy and understanding. And part of that, I think, is recognizing my own privilege, because I don't think, it was mentioned in the reading that we don't always sit back and take inventory on the privileges that we have because we take them for granted. And I know that I do have certain privileges that others don't. And so in order to be able to determine where clients' needs are not being met in the same way that they are for me more easily, because of societal discrimination, I have to be aware of my own privilege. And that's where understanding comes into play. But I think with compassion and empathy and a desire to understand your clients, I think that that's where you can do the most good, and you can sort of break down those barriers and help be an advocate for them. And so it's obviously being an advocate is extremely important, but it can be very taxing, and so it's really important to practice self-care. And in the article in Counselor Today, it mentioned that there's compassion fatigue that often occurs, so you have to attempt different forms of self-care and be aware of that so that you aren't rendered useless, basically. So self-care for me means to have a healthy outlet to decompress when needed, however often it's needed for me. And for me, that I rely on spiritual outlets to refresh my soul and my mind. And so praying and reading the Bible and going to church are refreshing for me, and they do help me to be centered and to decompress. And the Bible says, it actually talks about social justice, and God commands us to be advocates. And in Isaiah 117, it says, learn to do what is good, seek justice, correct the oppressor, defend the rights of the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. So I find it interesting that God instructs us to be advocates for the oppressed, and that's part of our holiness walk, and it's extremely important. And counselors get to do that directly with their profession. So for me, I think the first step that I intend to take with all the knowledge that I gleaned from this week's reading and then the articles and all of that is that I need to sort of seek out populations in society in my area that are being marginalized and they don't have a voice to defend themselves, and then I need to start thinking about in what way I'm skilled and educated and passionate enough to be of assistance to them. And I think that's really the first step is knowledge and looking for the opportunity and and making yourself fully informed about the issue before you can even take action. You need to know what's going on completely and in what way you can be of assistance to do your best job. And then you just really have to make sure that you're working within the boundaries of your skills and education and ability, instead of just jumping in and helping wherever you can. Take a minute and figure out what's important to you, what you can be passionate about, and where you can do the most good, and be informed. But I think this week the material made me realize that that I really need to be conscientious of that, and look for those opportunities, and to see where I could actually be an advocate. So that was it for my post. Thanks, guys.